Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 6 of the Greatest Muley Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Matt Anderson. Joining me today is my good buddy, Reggie Mead. Welcome, Reg.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Your first episode with me was very well received, so got a lot of good positive comments out of that. And the nice thing is we have a lot of crazy stories over the years, so we can keep doing this and
hmm
share some insight into why we hunt the way we hunt now and how we got there and the
hmm
stupid positions we put ourselves in over the years. And it's we've come a long way, let's just put it that way. So looking back, it's quite impressive that nobody ever got seriously hurt. So
A few scars. Few people have a few scars,
I
but
mean, scars, yeah, but hurt
they're
hurt.
good stories. Yeah, nobody ever got hurt. Absolutely.
Why don't we start today by you telling us the story of your biggest buck ever?
Oh yeah. So my biggest buck ever was actually. I know it's kind of not a super exciting uh, story because of all the huge long excursions I've had. I've almost never come upon a huge deer at the end of one of those.
Yeah,
Uh, and you know, my when I found my biggest buck, it was one of those years where it had been kind of warmish, and we hadn't been seeing a lot. Kind of discouraging. And then we had one of those snaps, and it got pretty cold. And we went out that morning. It was me and my sister Elizabeth and your dad, and it had that nice frost. It was just that real good chill that gets stuff moving. And we were driving back into a normal one of the spots we like to go to a lot, and just looking out. I'm looking out the window, and it's just this little draw on the other side of the road. You can kind of look down into it, and we look down there every time, and probably hardly ever see anything down in there,
yeah,
and 100 times. And this morning, I looked down in there, and there's just this enormous 3x4, and it's just one of those heart stopping, oh, that's big, oh, it's
yeah.
big.
Yep.
Jump out of the truck, run over, get a good stance. And it was one of the first years that I was shooting my big boomer, and so for many years before this, I hunted with, well, at the first I hunted with rifles that I borrowed from, your dad. And those were great, but then I got my own. My own grandfather gave me a 30-30 rifle, and that Midwest loves a 30-30. They're not super useful out where we hunt, and I'd had a lot of years of hitting deer or antelope and then having them run and having to track them down and put them
Yeah.
down. Horrible. And I'm also a very small man, so I have a little bit of a little big man disorder. Uh, so I wanted a big rifle, and so when Cabela's had a sweet sale for
Yeah.
Black Friday, I got a 300 Remington Ultra Mag, and that
Yep.
was one of the first years that I was hunting with it. And I jumped out, got my stance, and just one shot and just dropped him.
Yep.
So excited.
Yep.
Get, have to get down there. Took a few minutes to actually get down to where he was.
Yep.
And there's always that. You always see these bucks, and you think that's a huge. I had this so many years. You think that's a good buck, and you start walking up to it, and you're like, that's maybe not as good as I thought initially.
Yeah.
Uh, and this was not one of those times when we first came around a corner, and I could see him. He's laying on his side. You just see half of his rack sticking up,
Yep.
and I Like, oh my God, that is a nice buck. That is
Yep.
sweet. And that, I was super happy. Got some great pictures. Got those sweet endorphins. And then the friggin' work started.
Yep.
And that was one of the biggest bodied deer I've ever like encountered on any of our trips.
Yep.
And yeah, there he is. That's sweet. Yeah, and that guy, we had a game cart as my sister and I, and it couldn't have been more than, I don't know, 200 yards from the truck,
Yep.
right? We had to go up a little bit of a hill. I mean, that's one of the hardest drags I've had. That's on a cart with two people pulling it. I used to butcher my own deer, hang it in the garage, and I thought I was going to pull down some of my rafters in my garage. My garage was groaning
Yep.
trying to hang that thing, and it
Yep.
got it skinned. It looked like a side of beef hanging
Yep.
in there.
Yeah, he's an awesome deer.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. That was a really great experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And ever since then, I look down in there.
Yep. It's funny how like you go back to these same places and like you've seen a deer there one time or like you killed a deer there. Like every single time you go back there, it's like you remember so well those moments. Like it's so impactful to have that experience that like until you do it and until you understand it, it's so hard for people to really grasp the like how impactful it actually is. So
Right, and how these locations like ingrain themselves into your memory, or how that imprints onto your memory of every. Oh, I knew there was a big deer there.
yep.
I know a
Yep.
deer come through here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we go hunting and when we go hunting is like it's at the very first part of the rut generally, and so the big bucks are traveling. So you can see deer, big bucks any time of day, anywhere we go, and you just have to be ready. Like it's one of those things like you just have to be ready. So all right, babe, I need you to go to bed. Okay, I love you.
Yeah, and it's so weird how you can be in that same area. You can be in there for like 3 out of 4 days and see nothing. It seems like there's no deer in this forest. There was
Yeah.
like, I don't know what happened. Like, and then that switch happens, and all of a
Yep.
sudden there's deer everywhere. Deer coming out of the woodwork.
Everywhere. Yeah, it's
Like,
definitely like it's a grind because you just don't know where and when you're gonna see them, and you know, like you can go into the same exact place every day for a week, and you'll see 2 does one day. The next day you'll see 7 bucks and 20 does, and the next day you won't see anything at all except just tracks of people or whatever, and then 2 days later it's something completely different, like 100 head of elk just randomly. It's
yeah, crazy. And it
pretty
takes
interesting.
takes a certain amount of like psychological fortitude to
Mhm.
do that and not get totally discouraged.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
there's nothing. There's nothing here. This whole
Yeah.
forest is empty. They're there. They're in there.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a grind. It is a real grind, and it's fun and it's exciting and it's tiring and it's frustrating, and it's everything. It's so like the highs are the highest highs and the lows are the lowest lows, and it's every damn thing in between. So like it's just such an emotional roller coaster, and it's such a cool way of like getting your food, like there's no better way. So
It's funny how I've kind of grown over the years. When I was younger, the days of not seeing anything were really frustrating, really hard.
yep.
It's really hard to do that. And as I've gotten older, there's a lot more of, I like a nice long hike, and if we don't see anything, that's probably okay because I'm still going to get to see some cool stuff. I'm
Hmm.
still out, can get out of my head a little bit, or, kind of readjust myself. And it's just nice being out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, as get a bunch of deer under your belt, then you it's not such a frenetic thing. It's, the whole experience is important. It's not just, killing and seeing deer. And, when you first start out, like, it's about killing deer. Like, that is what it's about. And as you kill some nice bucks and fill your freezer, it's like, okay, I get this. It's not so like I have to kill something. Like when I
Right.
was, when when I was a kid, it was very much I had to. I had to do that.
Right. And if you
Now
went on
it's
a trip and didn't get something, especially for me, which didn't do as much hunting as you did.
yeah,
If I only had a handful of hunting trips each year or whatever, handful of weekends to go out, you don't get something on a trip and you just feel devastated.
yep. Yeah, for sure. Well, and like at this point, you know, like I'm paying a non-resident price. It's a lot of money. It's like $650 for that tag. So there's no way I'm not gonna shoot a deer. Like I'm gonna shoot a deer. You know, if it's a 2 point on the last day, it's a 2 point on the last day. But I'm gonna fill that tag. Like there's no way I'm gonna drive 1,000 miles and then not fill my tag that costs
Right.
$650. Like, and
Right.
ideally, I'm gonna shoot the biggest, most mature deer that I can find. But at the end of the day, I'll shoot a 2 point buck over a doe any day of the week because you think about how many deer that doe is responsible for. Like one buck can service 20, 30 does a year, but that one doe can only have one or maybe two fawns a year. So in the grand scheme of things, like does are so much more important than bucks for overall herd health. And so I'll shoot a 2 point buck every time because you can always shoot a 2 point buck. Like that's always on the table.
Like last year, I was holding out for a big buck, and it was getting towards the end of our trip, and hadn't seen anything, hadn't been able to get on anything real big, and I just said, all right, the last day, like I'm gonna fill my freezer, I'm gonna
Yep.
shoot the first meat buck I see,
Yep.
and that's what we did. So, all
Yep.
right,
Yep.
unfortunate for you, little meat buck, but
It's the
good
way it
goodie.
goes.
That's just
Yeah.
how it is.
Yep. Certainly. And like, yes, that impacts the herd's ability whew, to grow big bucks, but ultimately it's way better than shooting a doe. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever feel bad about shooting a 2 point. Like, and that was something Sean and I talked about in the last episode, was how people just try to make excuses for shooting whatever they shoot, like he looked a lot bigger than he was, or which happens. I mean, that definitely happens. You see only one angle of a deer and you shoot it, and then it's like the
Yeah,
ground shrinkage is real. And then like you were saying, like when you have the opposite happen where he's bigger when you get up to him, like that's such a great feeling
absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've had the opposite happen, and like sadly, I had this like scourge of it's been a few years at this point, but I had this scourge of like I was trying to fill my tag like last day, and the deer in the scope, single deer by itself, couldn't gauge its size, just blow it to holy hell, and get up there, and it's some kind of yearling that's just
yeah.
like this tiny deer, and it just felt terrible.
Yeah,
And
for
it was
sure.
horrible.
Yep.
I've gotten a lot better at actually identifying
Yeah.
age of deer.
Yeah. Definitely
It's also an acquired
makes.
skill.
Yeah. When you're a resident, so you can get a lot more tags, much more reasonably priced. So it's
Right?
not as big a deal as it is for me. So
Right. And that's when I actually had doe tags, like specifically doe tags, which, yeah, at this point, I don't really do.
no,
Not a good idea.
no. The only thing like the only thing I would say is like, I mean, it's too late at this point, but if you do get a doe tag, like, and then just don't use it so that somebody else doesn't shoot a doe, you know,
Right.
I mean, that's because for you, it's not that much money, but
Right.
when you look at
Yeah.
one doe and its impact on the
Right.
entire overall herd is, I don't know, something to
And
think about.
yeah, I don't know what they're doing anymore. If they, I don't. I think they've restricted some of that. I don't think it's quite the crazy
Yeah.
for all they had going on for a while.
I was like, man, when I was in high school, you could get two mule deer doe tags, two whitetail doe tags, and a buck tag, and we would shoot 5 deer.
Yeah. 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 There was one year where somehow you could get 7 tags total, and it's for different parts of the state, I think, but you could do it. That's just like insanity.
And then you throw in an antelope buck and two antelope doe tags into the mix, and maybe a cow elk, or
Yeah, the problem with getting greedy is you quickly run out of freezer space.
Oh man,
So
yeah,
then you give it away, and then it turns into a hassle.
yeah,
That's why
it's a bad deal.
this is the best.
Yeah. So, these are the things that you learn over the years. You go through the horrible times to get to where you're like, yeah, we've thought this through. We're not just wanton killers anymore. It's
There is something that appeals to the teenage boy, at least a lot of us teenage boys, about that. And
mhm,
it is what it is.
mhm.
It's just fortunate that, at least for many of us, we kind of grow out of that and mature a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yes, I'm a much different person now than I was back in the day, and boy, when you and I first started hunting together, just you and I, we did some real stupid shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Our gear was so terrible, and
Terrible gear, terrible procedures.
yeah,
Safety was just like not a thing.
eh, eh, whatever. It'll sort itself out was kind of
Right.
our attitude, and
Hearing loss. I mean, who cares about hearing loss?
yeah, I mean,
Probably not that bad.
as I have constant ringing in my ears for the rest of my
It's
life.
real. It is a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Tinnitus is it's a real thing. I'm 37. My dad couldn't hear at all the last 5 years of his life. Like there, his hearing was so bad. Even with hearing aids, he struggled. So that's. I hope they get this shit figured out soon because it's the ringing is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like I own so many pairs of hearing protection now that like I
Yeah.
have 2 pairs of Bluetooth that I have, one at work and one for home, and then like at least 4 pairs of regular just earmuff type stuff, and then some other ones too. But back then, nope.
Yeah, they have that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about this year trying to get the some of those the Bluetooth kind of buds,
Hmm.
the hearing protection and enhancement, and
Yeah,
that sounds pretty sweet.
yeah,
I usually hunt with the big muff, and
yeah,
that was ridiculous to make all my pictures look ridiculous. I also
yeah.
have this problem where the scope of my rifle tends to hit them when I shoot, and that's annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, we
They're
didn't have,
very
those things didn't exist, right?
yeah. Yeah. No, it's
This is the magic of like lithium ion batteries, really.
yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that you can have like noise enhancing and then cut off at a certain decibel level, and I mean, that's
Right.
such
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, and I think that that's also the cost was an issue. But as kids, like I don't want to not be able to hear. Like I
Yeah.
need to be able to hear, so you just don't use it. And
Yep.
there was a few years where I sort of thought that I could just have the hearing protection with me, the whatever, and then I'll just put it in right before I shoot, and it never happens. It never happens.
There's
There,
no time. There's
there's
no time.
there's a few times where I got one in and not the other, and having that difference would give me an instant migraine when I shot. Like that was almost the worst
Yeah,
no protection at all.
because the pressure was so imbalanced.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we were very dumb, and we will pay for it for our lifetime. That's
Right?
part of the deal.
Make
But
better choices. Well, that's how you learn.
at the same time, like my kids will never have that. That will never be a thing, that they have to deal with. So
Right?
it's just do the best you can until you know better, and then do better. I mean, that's a real good
All you can
statement.
do.
So yeah, it's just like going out, nice afternoon hike, walk way down a big long ridge. Yeah, this ain't bad. Some clouds are rolling in, no big deal. We'll just sit here and watch and see if any deer come down through this big draw. Really good setup. I mean, that was a really good setup, and we go sit out on this point. You can look over a lot of country with the binoculars, and get some good setups, and pretty quick. Oh, snow. All right. uh, shit. It's coming down pretty hard.
Yeah, and that was not so long ago.
No, that was a few years ago.
Yeah,
That was like
and I mean,
4 years ago,
and
5 years ago.
honestly, yeah, that I mean, there's not a lot you can do necessarily to prepare for that. I mean, sometimes like the blizzard's just gonna hit.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy. That was one of the first times where I followed a trail in, not thinking about the fact that like, hey, if a foot of snow falls in like an hour, you're not going to be able to see that trail, right? It's not at all.
Oh, and it's getting dark.
Oh, and it's going to be dark.
And you've only been in here a couple of times, so
Yeah, that was wild. Just the snow. I was walking behind you, and I could watch the snow like piling up on your shoulders as we were walking.
yeah.
So much snow.
Yeah, I mean, at least we had decent clothing, and we were prepared in terms
Yeah,
of like
we're a
our
lot more
outerwear. It wasn't like sometimes where you just weren't prepared at
right.
all. But
No, we
even then, like we we thought we knew where the pickup was. We had a
right.
pretty good idea. We ended up a half a mile up the road, like way up the road, way up a big ass mountain. Like it was crazy. It was so freaking crazy. You get so turned around, like it's so easy. I mean, thank God you had your little GPS unit so you could pull up every, 15 minutes or so and like, yep.
And that's the thing. Like we prepare, and then you figure out how prepared you actually were. You prepare as good as you think you should, or whatever. And then you go and you try it. And like, yeah, we had the GPS, which was like a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with maps, if you're going to try to locate yourself on a map, well, it doesn't work so well if you can't see anything around you, if you can't
Yeah.
see more
Yep.
than feet in front of you. It's pretty hard to have anything other than a general location of like, okay, I guess west is this way. But
Yeah.
you could get yourself real lost that way. So thank God we had the GPS.
Yep.
But as an important lesson here, always mark your truck on the
Yeah.
GPS.
Yeah. Because we hit
Then
the road, but
map
and then at that point we didn't know if we were going to go up the road or down the road. And I mean, it was like, well, let's just go down. And I don't remember how far up we came, and I don't remember. Now we've been in there a bunch of times since then, and I have a much better feel for that country now than I did then. So but we got back to the truck, and it was several hours past dark, and pretty quick my dad pulls up in his pickup because he knew where we were hunting. And it was like right after we had got back to the pickup, my dad pulled up in his pickup, and he was worried. He was definitely worried about us. And so, but man, that was crazy. And we did see a nice buck too, like walking down that trail in that damn snowstorm. I mean, he was a good
just
buck.
about the
So
last thing we saw. Yeah.
yeah. Like you could barely see him across that big creek
Yeah.
with the snow coming down and everything. Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild place, man. Montana is so wild in a way
Yeah.
that you just don't get a lot of places. So yeah. And like you said, you plan and you think you got all the bases covered, and then you find out what you actually have covered.
Yeah. Then you refine it, then you try again,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you get safer. But
And we had headlamps. I had a flashlight, so we could at least see kind of where we were going. You couldn't see more than 10, 15 feet in front of you because the snow's coming so hard and so sideways because the wind. And you just and it's like, as the person who's leading, there's like,
added pressure.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Now
But
that I've
like,
yeah.
now that you're taking Rodney out, like
Right.
it's a
Yeah. It's harder. I mean, it's different. It's different, and it's one of those things. It's hard to recapture kind of the I don't know, joy, or just how easy it was. When you're not in charge, and especially before you know enough to really know like what the risks are, and you just think, this person that I'm with, they know what they're doing. We're totally fine. We're totally safe. And you can just like enjoy it and have fun and not have to worry. Like, am I going to break down here? Are we going to have to walk 10 miles? You just say, oh, yeah, it's totally fine. Everything's under control.
yeah. And then you're the one in charge, and you realize that
Suddenly it's still fun, but it's a lot more of like, there's a lot more worrying involved, and
yeah.
you have to like take it a lot more serious.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
It really changes how you think about things when you're in charge.
Yeah.
And thank God we had my dad to teach us how to do a lot of things, and you know, he taught both of us a lot. And I wish early on I had listened better,
Right.
because I always just, yeah, I got it, thanks. But that's
Yeah.
every kid with their parent every time. Like, you just always know better, even though you don't know shit. So
Yeah, I wish I had paid attention more when I was younger, asked questions, and just, you know, it's especially when you're at that stage where you just, I want to go shoot a deer. The stuff that kind of comes before and after that, tends to like sort of not, you're not totally engaged, and
Yep.
especially at that point, like my physical conditioning was not like the best, and some of those early trips you start like trudging, and especially, I mean, I'll also say that there is a skill in being able to walk in that country that is so rugged, and being able to glance down every so often and just keep your footing, and still be able to like look around you and
Yeah.
see everything. And before you acquire that skill, and especially if you're not in great shape, you end up just trudging, just
Yep.
eyes down at
Yep.
feet, following
Yep.
whoever's front leading.
Yep.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of places where, like really great stuff happened when I was with your dad. Like really amazing hunts happened. And I don't know where we were. I wasn't,
Yeah.
I was the whole way, and we walked a long time. I don't know where we were. He just knew all these little places he could get to, and
Yeah.
I wish I had paid more attention.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean there's places like when I was, oh boy, I don't know, I was probably 7 or 8. We went into this place and I think I can find that picture. Um, we went way back in this crazy country and we dropped down into this big creek and just this cool crazy old steam tractor
Hmm.
just in the middle of nowhere. Like this crazy old awesome tractor that is just like, it's so cool. Just trying to find where I have that picture. That's the hard part, is like there's too many pictures. It's way too many. But it's fortunate that we have any pictures at all, so I ain't gonna. But there's so much cool country, and like, you look on a map and it's not the hugest area in the world, but there is so much there that a map does not show you. That is pretty incredible.
Yeah, if it was totally flat, it wouldn't be so much to look at, but just all the dynamic features.
Yeah,
There's pockets you can find,
yeah,
almost like
all over the place. Did you watch the episode with Michelle?
no, I haven't seen it.
I showed the picture of when my dad caught that tree with his pickup when we were sighting in the rifles, and I made him take a trophy picture with it.
Yeah.
So awesome. So many funny little things like that over the years that, man, it's just crazy. Such a cool, awesome place. Nope, can't find that. In any case, it was
Give
really
up.
cool. Old steam, like I don't have any idea how old the thing was, but just this wicked old steam tractor way the hell back in some country and just in the middle of a big creek, and that was cool. I climbed up on it and my dad took a picture. It was one of those rare times where we had a camera with us, and so I actually got some pictures of it and it was pretty cool. But he knew so many places and so many, like, people know the general places, but he knew places within the places all the time, and he knew where the deer were likely to be in a way that a lot of people just don't. And that was part of why he was so successful and why we are often successful now. So So why don't you tell the story when we ran down the mountain?
That was great. That was really early on. I love some of those early trips that we took because we were just so dumb. Uh,
So
but
dumb.
it was fun. There's something. So it's almost like a curve where when you have like zero gear, it's kind of fun. Like you don't have to think very hard
Yep.
about it. And we're fortunate that we were lucky and we didn't like have anything seriously bad happen to us because we just had like nothing, and then start getting some gear and then you get yourself into trouble where you don't have enough gear to really do what you're trying to do. You have just enough to get yourself in, and now we're kind of getting on to this other
Yeah.
side of
Yeah.
gear. And, there's a lot more gear and there's, that's its own kind of headache sometimes. But, you're safer. But those early trips, I'm trying to remember, we hadn't been in there very much. I don't know if that was our first time. Might have been one of the first times.
I think it was the first time we went in there.
I think I want to say it was bear hunting. It seems like it was, bear or elk. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was fair weatherish. No, I'm gonna say it was spring bear hunting. I think because
Yeah, it was spring bear. Yep.
we're like we're gonna go in and camp or whatever. I think that was that thing.
Yep.
We're gonna go in. You look on a map back then. The best you could do is little like USGS maps or whatever. There's Gazetteer or something. There's no Google Earth or whatever.
Yeah.
You can just go see it. So we're like, oh yeah, we'll go in there and check it out. And we get up there and there's a gate. It hasn't even opened for the season. And we're like, oh well, right? Should we go home? Of course not. So we'll just carry all our gear and we'll just set up camp like 100 yards from the gate on the other side of the gate. You can't drive down there, but yeah, we can just carry all this camping stuff down there. A little tiny tent and our cooler upstairs, and so we had a nice little camp there. But then to get to where we wanted to go, like we had to walk on the road we planned on driving on. This was an extra, I don't know, mile or
At
more.
least, yeah.
At least a couple of miles. That like, okay, now we got to walk down this thing that we were planning on driving on.
Yeah.
So, we get up early that day and we walk down, walk, and get down to the part where we should have been able to actually drive to, and then you start just like walking up the mountain. And it's funny, I always remember that as being much shorter than it actually is. I just re-hiked that with my nephew just like last year, and like 3 hours to get to the top. And we weren't going very slow. I mean, we were going pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a long switchbacky, like way up from the very bottom of this little valley, like to the top of the ridge line of these mountains.
Yeah.
And we hiked up there the better part of a day. I don't remember us really grumbling too much about it. I don't remember if we saw. I think maybe we saw some. Might have been when the elk ran in front of us. We weren't hunting elk, but I think we saw some elk.
Yeah.
No bear. I think we saw some bear scat, but we are up on the top, and then we're tired because we did a lot that we didn't plan on doing. We like did all this extra walking beforehand, and then we weren't really prepared for this big hike up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And so, you know how switchback. Anybody that knows how switchbacks are, when you start coming down, you'll get to the point where you see the switchbacks further down the mountain, and you're like, well, shoot. I mean, going downhill. Why do I even need to use the switchback? switchback. That's just to make it easier going up, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, well, hiking's done for the day. Like, we're tired. We just want to go back to our camp. We don't
Yeah.
want to have to go all the way down this thing again.
Yeah.
And so we decided to run down the mountain. And that is a terrible, terrible idea. Anybody that ever gets the urge of thinking they could just, well, I'm just going to sort of quick walk down, a straight line down, and get back on the switchbacks way further down. Well, the like fast walk pretty much quickly becomes a controlled fall.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of sliding and grabbing for trees and precarious footing.
Oh my God.
I think you ended up like on a tree, like on a down tree, like nearly impaled yourself
Yep.
on a tree, blew out the seat of your pants, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it was not a good
idea. We're just like going down and like over here, it's like a sheer drop off. I mean, there is a cliff and we're like right at the top of it. There's like a scree hill. So lots of loose rock. And we're just like taking these huge steps, like going down fast, you know, because like keep up your momentum, because if we slow down, we're dead. We're literally dead. We will die here today, and I don't recommend that as a course of action.
Anybody who's like done a lot of climbing on scree, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, is just like really fine rock, kind of rubble on the side of a mountain. You can sort of glissade. You know, basically picture like what skiers do. You can sort of do that and just sort of, you know, slide from here. I'm slide. But it's real hard to control that and keep yourself from not just freaking
when you
falling.
Have a 100-foot cliff like right there. If you don't hit this certain spot, you're.
Yeah, snow's a lot softer, it turns out, than, you know, rock. So, not a great idea. No. And the worst part, this is one of my biggest failings as an older brother. It's that like a couple years later, I was doing that same trail with my little sister, and we got done and we're heading back down, and she was so tired. And I was like, well, you can just shortcut it. We can just run down the mountain. And I let her do it, and she like fell on again, like down a down tree. She got hung up on it, and still has this like scar on her knee. And I was like, well, you learned a valuable lesson. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, kind of.
It was not great, but I thought like, well, I'm going to let her learn this lesson, you know. I could tell her it's a bad idea, but I let her figure that out on her own.
Oh, Reg, you silly fuck. Yeah. And like, we did not pack lunch or anything with us. I mean, we may have had like a granola bar or something and very minimal water. And so like we get to the top of this damn mountain and we're just like hungry, tired, thirsty, and who gives a fuck? And we nearly paid for that with our lives. So that was fun.
Magical time.
So then we get back to camp that night. You know, we're just tired, so we're just hanging out at camp. That was it. So built a big fire and we're just sitting there and then
we're feeling pretty good, relaxing, you know. Just like ha ha ha, you know, oh, there's no bears out here, you know, whatever. And all of a sudden there's just this from behind us, and it's like from behind me, and I look over at Matt, and he's got this giant pistol, and his eyes just get real big, and he's reaching for it. I was like, oh my god, somebody's gonna get shot. And he almost shot my cooler, because what had happened was I had cut a shovel. I think it was a shovel. I had like leaned it up against the cooler, and the cooler had this like textured surface, and the shovel had just like slid off it and just made this like terrible growling sound.
It nearly got it. It nearly got it.
Kept things exciting.
That will get your attention in a real quick sort of thing when you're in bear country.
Yeah, weird noises. Any kind of weird, sudden, unexpected noise when you're in the middle of nowhere.
With that cooler. So probably that same year, Reggie and I went up to Glacier Park and we camped right on Hungry Horse Reservoir, which is a big, beautiful hydroelectric dam just south of Glacier Park, and really cool, like beautiful area. And man, that lake is so pretty. And like we hiked down into this area. We got on this beach, and it's this beautiful pebble beach, and we had this entire cove to ourselves, like nobody else is around. And it was awesome. It was so beautiful, sun setting. We had some otters swim up to us basically, and so we called it Otter Cove from then on. And I tried to go back there a few years ago and couldn't even get to there. And like there's campgrounds all over that place now that weren't not there when we were there, and just a weird place now. Um so we're camping there, and Reggie had this tent, and
Oh my God.
I'm a
So,
big guy.
here's the thing. So I know that this was before our other trip because we had a different tent. Uh, so I think this was like one of our first camping adventures that
Yeah.
we had taken, and I'm like, I've got a tent. Like my family has a tent. Like I grew up with this tent that we used to camp out in the backyard, right?
Yep.
Uh, and in my mind, I guess I was remembering the tent when I was like 5, right? Which the tent seemed huge when I was a very small 5-year-old.
Yep.
So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, we've got a tent, no problem. Like this is totally going to work out. Uh, and this advice should also always check your gear
Before you go.
Always, even if it's brand new, especially if it's brand new. Check it out because we got there and we set up this tent, and it's like for children, I guess. I don't know. It couldn't be more than like 4 feet by 4 feet.
4 feet by 4 feet.
So small, so small. We had we had to just leave the door open and let our legs stick out the door.
Yep.
It was,
It was so ridiculous because I'm not a little guy at all. And so, like, there is 2 feet of my legs sticking out of the tent. And of course, we pitched it on a little bit of a slope. So, in the night, you like slide down a little bit.
out of the tent.
Pretty quick, you're most of the way out of the tent.
Back up.
So, we're sleeping.
Yeah.
We're sleeping, and it's grizzly bear country. Like there's grizzlies all over that country, and we were very stupid. Like we did not put our food up in a tree. We did not, take any sort of precautions. It was real dumb.
Not even close.
So it's the middle of the night, and I wake up and I just hear this like weird scratching, like gurgling noise. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I like wake you up. And we're like sitting up, like trying to figure it out. Like, shit, is this a bear? Like, what the hell is going on? And in the reflection of the moon in the lake, we finally figured out what the noise was. There was a doe mule deer that was licking Reggie's cooler, just licking the outside of the cooler for whatever reason. And she was like 15 feet away from us and did not care at all that we were there. And like, it was so weird. So
She
weird.
did not have any idea that we were there. Like we were watching the silhouette, and it's hard not to laugh sometimes when the animals are like that doing some weird thing not very far away from you. And I remember that doe, like after it got done with the cooler, kind of checking out. I think it put its nose up to our campfire that was burning out, just checking out. And it got so close to us. It must have been about, I couldn't have been more than about 3 feet away from us. It came like right up to us, like it was sort of like the wind must have been to where it couldn't smell us at all.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's in, and of course we're like in the like opening of this tent, right? Just
Yeah.
like up, and it's like what is that? And I'm trying to laugh, and all of a sudden it kind of like let out a little giggle. That deer took off so fast. Holy shit!
Yep. Yeah.
Hilarious.
It's goofy.
But there's a certain kind of magic about those early trips, and I think it's because we were so lucky, because we just didn't have the right stuff at all, didn't know what we were doing. Just like, yeah, we'll just drive up there. Then all the campsites were full. We're like, well, let's just wander off through the woods here, and we magically like come upon this perfect little cove. So
Yep.
it's like, yeah, we'll just camp here, and and eat pasta because that's everybody's favorite camping food.
It's what we always brought.
Wilson pasta, good stuff.
Yep.
Meat sauce, but it was fun. We had a fun
Yeah,
trip.
for sure.
Back, you know.
I mean, we had so many fun times. We we did some stuff. We did some stuff over the years. It's been an awesome adventure. It's so funny. So, um, I went to Spokane 2 weekends ago, and Michelle and I shot our rifles for the first time, and me the first time since I had all that work done, and her the first time ever with her rifle, and so that was really cool. But it was like this is the first new rifle that she's ever had, and so I got her a nice soft case for it, and she got a pair of those Vortex binoculars that I picked up for you as well, and so she has all this stuff that she never ever had before, and all this stuff. And I'm like, so I was talking to her, and I'm like, you got all this awesome new gear for the first time ever. Like, she's like, it's so weird. I feel like the Meads.
That's hilarious.
Because the running joke is like, well, what's Reggie gonna bring this year? Like, him and Elizabeth always have whatever gear you could ever imagine, and just always trying new stuff. And it's
Like 50-50, it doesn't work out at all, but you gotta try it.
And you're in a decent financial position, so
Right.
you can try things that you would never have been able to in years
Right.
past. So it's just funny. Like, that's the perception, is like, well, if it's crazy and new, I bet Reggie has it.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny, pretty darn funny. But it's coming up quick, man. We're a little more than a month out from our big hunt, and I am ready.
That is crazy.
I just keep like doing these podcasts. Like, man, I'm so excited to get out there and do some stuff, do some awesome hunting. And like, you just never know what you're gonna get. Like, 4 years ago, it rained for like the first 4 days. So we couldn't get anywhere. We stayed on the highway because you couldn't even get on the gravel roads. Like it just, man, that country is so bad when it rains. So hunting from the highway has its challenges. Certainly, you can do it, but it's you have to put in a lot more miles than you normally would, and then very old. So
We're hoping for not rain.
yeah, not rain would be great. You know, a nice, even not snow at first would be good. Just get some nice cold nights and well below freezing and warm up to 30, 40 during the day, and that's
Yeah.
kind of nice.
We could have a foot of snow here in a couple of days.
Lucky.
Who knows by November?
90 degrees last week and a foot of snow in a couple of days.
Yep, that's how we roll.
That's Montana for you.
Yeah. The downside of having all that gear is maintaining all that gear. Because I'm like, crap, it's only a month away. I'm like, I got to start. There's like a laundry list of things. I'm like,
Yeah.
the zipper totally broke on that wall tent last year. Yeah, I would need to repair that,
Yep.
and a number of other things.
Yep. I just got a new big canvas sleeping bag. Pretty
Nice.
excited about that. So
They're very nice.
yeah, I've been coveting yours for several years. So
Yeah.
I mean, I got a decent sleeping bag, but this is definitely an upgrade, and I'm real
Nice
excited
and
about
warm.
it. Yeah, I don't. It's rated down to 0, and like even when it was 20 below 0, the one I had, which is rated down to like 20 maybe, was just fine. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a bear, so
We always put you furthest away from the wood stove.
always. And that's for 2 reasons. Number 1, so I don't have to feed it in the night.
Uh-huh.
And 2, because it gets a little too warm when you're that close. So
It
I would
does.
much rather be a little cold than too warm.
Yeah.
So
And just as a general rule for your viewers, if anybody doesn't have experience with camping with wood stoves, it's generally best to sleep. At least for me, I find it best to sleep with my head away from the stove, just so that by the time you feel cold, because I'm a like my face is where I like sense temperatures. By the time that my face gets cold enough to wake me up, I don't want the wood stove to be out, right?
yeah,
I want like, it's starting to get cold, but it's still a little bit of fire going.
yeah. And I just hear some cussing and banging around while Reggie's trying to start the
Banging.
damn stove in the middle of the
Oh,
damn night.
stove in
Who
the
the
middle of
hell let this
terrible.
goddamn thing burn out, son of a...
But again, with all the gear, so now I have a little one of those propane torches you can get at like Harbor Freight for $5. Put it onto one of those 1 pound propane bottles, and that'll start your fire in a hurry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you don't want it to like looking for a little piece of cardboard or something to just get it. Oh, not when it's cold. Not when it's real cold.
No.
That's miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the temperatures we had last year were pretty decent, but if we could get some nice, 30s and 40s during the day and 10s and 20s at night.
Like, always seem to get on either side of that, and the things when we get there, and then 10, 5 degrees a couple days later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. it's exciting. We've been hunting together a long time now, so. And that's one nice thing too. Like, we've been hunting together for so long. We know how to hunt together, and we know kind of what. Like, I know you'll keep up with me, and like, I'm a big dude, but I got some hiking legs that will blow you away. So I told Sean to just
Mm-hmm.
don't come with any preconceived notions, because he's not gonna understand quite how it works. Um, but we can pretty much tell what the other one's thinking, and we get into some country that we both like, and it's cool. It'll be fun. I'm gonna put you more of a lead role. Like, I'll probably send one of the guys with you, and I'll take one, and we'll kind of split up a little bit and cover some country. And like I told them, I'm never gonna just send them by themselves. Like,
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
it's a terrible, terrible plan. So,
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for GPS, but still, that's a bad idea.
It's funny, and I don't know how I didn't get like worse lost like early on, because your dad would be like, okay, you're gonna go up here and then come down there and then come out over wherever. I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then like totally not do that at all. Somehow we usually came out somewhere, at least to where we could like see where we were supposed to come out.
Yeah. And he always had such a knack of like finding you just
Yeah.
wherever the hell you ended up.
Amazing.
Let's talk about that hunt where you shot that little buck on King way back in,
Oh,
that we ended up carrying out.
oh my God. That was like, oh, that was,
Just in
yeah.
terms of this
I don't remember what
stupidest.
led up to that, but I feel like I was having some issues or something. I don't remember, but yeah, we got in there. We're like, okay, we're gonna find some deer in here, you know. Uh, and I feel like we saw those deer pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like we had just left, and we were kind of like hiking up, hadn't really gotten up onto the top yet, and oh, there's a buck, oh my gosh. And I go, my 30-30, I go to load my 30-30, and it's a lever action, and I get about here, and everything's like open and eases up. I don't know what's going on, like just totally locked up. I'm like, oh no, like panicking, right? So I'm like, okay, I can't use this. And Matt's like, okay, you can, use my rifle. And at the time, you had that like sniper stock on it. I don't know if
Yep.
that was
Yeah.
2 years,
No, it was the 25-06.
5 out 6, but you had that giant, yeah. Uh, and it's like way too big for me
Yeah.
at the time. And I'm like, oh, good. And I go and I like shoot at the deer, and it goes over the hill. I totally miss. And Matt's gonna like catch up to me or whatever. I just go running up the hill. It's one of those glorious times when you're young and you still think you can like chase deer. Like
Yeah.
if I run as hard as I possibly can up this hill, I could totally still get that deer. And I get up there and I'm like super exhausted, and I look over and there is like this buck is like just down on the bottom. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's still there. And so I go like running, and I kind of almost do a like almost feet over head thing. I like fall down a little bit because I've got this giant rifle, and then I get oh okay, and I'm like aiming down into the bottom of this little ravine or whatever, and I shoot, and Buck just I miss, and he just stands there. And I don't know. I must have shot like 5 times before I hit the thing. I guess it was just like I think it was a trap, really, some kind of trap.
Yep.
Like, I don't know why that deer didn't run away.
Yep.
Finally shot him, and then Matt gets up there, and like we head down there. Oh yeah, get down there, and it's all like, yeah, it's awesome. And then we realize like, oh man, how are we gonna get the deer out of here? Like when I'm up on the top of this ridge, it's just like there's a deer, I'm gonna shoot it. And then you get down there and you're like, that was hard for me to just like get down. Like how this deer is not going back over that ridge. Like I'll tell
Yeah.
you that. Not when it's just the two of us, and I'm a small person.
Yeah.
Uh, so we field dress it and whatever. We're like, okay, well, I guess we have to like take this big circuitous way out. We're gonna have to like go out of this little like drainage, and then try to circle back around to where we hope the truck is gonna be.
Yeah.
And so we start dragging this deer, and it is exhausting. Like it is a hard drag, and we are not making good time.
No.
And so it's like, oh man, if we don't hurry up, we're gonna get caught out in the dark. So okay, what can we do? Well, let's take off all the legs at the joints, right? Because that's gonna save us
Mm-hmm.
5 pounds or something. I don't know. So
Well, legs, when you're dragging a deer, the legs catch on all sorts of things as you're trying to
yeah,
drag. And that's, I mean, we were going through some
no
rough
problem.
shit. So, like, any little bit that you can do makes a
Right.
difference. But,
Yeah, but not as much of a difference as we needed. And so we cut that off and we go a little further. Oh, this is just so exhausting. And so I don't know at what point we decided that cutting the deer in half was the way to go, but that's essentially the decision we came to.
mm-hmm.
Uh, we cut the deer in half. Matt has the lion's share that he's like,
Yep.
and I,
Rib cage and everything up, all the
yeah,
front.
that I've got everything down, and just trying to get out. And it does get dark, super dark, and we didn't have anything at this. We didn't
We
even
had
have.
no lights at all whatsoever.
Yeah, we were not prepared at all.
Nope.
Super dumb.
Yep.
Uh, and I remember at one point you're like, "Oh, we should shoot to let my dad know, like we're out here." Which for anybody watching, I think like 3 gunshots is the like.
Yeah. Michelle and I talked about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, well known
Yep.
emergency or
SOS. I mean,
yeah.
that's what it is an SOS. So.
So we're like, okay. And again, no hearing protection at the time. And this was one of the like this I think maybe hurt my hearing the most out of almost anything that we did was those shots because it was so quiet. Like night and just like pure silence. And that rifle was so loud. I mean,
Yeah.
I had ringing in my ears almost until we got out.
Yeah.
So we shoot, and then we pick up our deer, and we keep on going. And it's amazing. Like we were fortunate that the moon was really full.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we got out.
It came out like an hour after it had been dark. So we're like
Yeah.
walking through this narrow ass rough canyon, rocks and shit everywhere, and I'm carrying 2/3 of a deer. Reggie's got the hindquarters, and we have our rifles and everything. And my God, like we're going and going and going, and it seems like we're walking forever. Oh my God, forever. And so finally we like came out of this canyon. It just opened up into this big flat, and like right about that time my dad drives by, and Like,
we
so
could see the truck kind of like going back and forth on the road.
yeah.
Gave us somewhere to aim for.
Yep. And then we shot and, stopped him and then carried
I
on.
thank God that the moon came out when it did, because when we got out onto the like plainsy kind of stuff, there are just these coulees like dug out that you almost impossible to see. You
Yeah.
look and it seems like it's just like a flat all the way to the road, and if you aren't careful, we'd come up on these coulees dug out, and then you gotta like take a detour up and around so you don't fall down into these,
Yeah.
even the half a deer you're carrying.
I have rarely in my life been as tired as I was at the end of that excursion.
Uh, that was tired. That was one of the worst.
Yeah. And
That,
what we should have done was just leave the deer and come back the next morning and get him with
right.
people and appropriate things. And we were very stupid. So,
And stuff.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, incredibly stubborn. Like, boy. And it was like 4 hours after dark before we got back to the pickup and got out of there. Yeah, my dad was not super impressed with us.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, he was mostly just happy that we were alive and, you know, and like my brother was just headed out to that area because like it was late. It was damn late. We should have been back a lot sooner than that. And so like a search party was on its way out basically, and then we met up with them and it was, resolved, but very much pre cell phone, very much pre. I mean, we didn't even have a fucking flashlight with us. We didn't have any damn thing, and
Completely unprepared.
shot this deer. Got
Right.
him.
Before I really, you know, could grasp the idea of like making sure you look where something is. Like you can't just focus on what. Like, oh, it's a nice buck. Well, is it nice enough for where it is?
Yeah, that's a big thing.
The way the answer that time was no.
Not even close.
Not even close.
But but we got him.
Yeah.
We didn't get hurt.
That carcass was so dirty by the time we got it back.
I'm sure. 'Cause shit, you'd have to like drop it to the ground every 100 yards because that thing is heavy. It's heavy. And you're just walking through some rough ass shit, and boy, stupid. So that's why when 2 years ago we were dragging out my buck, like it was just like we can't do this.
Right.
This is not good.
Yeah.
We can't go far enough fast enough for this to work today. So we're gonna stash him under a tree and we're gonna come back in first thing in the morning when the ground is frozen and we're gonna bring a cart and it's gonna be easy comparatively. I mean, it still was not easy because he was a big ass deer, but like, we learned. I wish last year on Rodney's buck that we had learned a little bit better, but
Pretty much have like a cart for strategy
yeah,
going. It's just
we
unless
gotta,
it's super easy, unless it is like 100 yards from the truck.
yeah, yeah, like Elizabeth. That was
Right.
pretty good.
Great. Yeah. Otherwise, you just end up like totally wrecking yourself. And I
Because
was
that
like,
was that was day one. That was day one last year. That made everything super hard for the whole hunt.
you just wrecked.
Like I'm a beast, but there are limits. I ended up buying a couple of the more of those little drag harnesses.
Nice.
They were like $8 a piece on Amazon or something. So got a few of those. So if need be, we can tie 3 or 4 people onto a deer, and 3 or 4 people can drag a lot easier than one person and a little bit of another.
Absolutely.
But we need to use wheels, and I'm gonna buy that sled before we go. So
Nice.
that'll, if there's snow, sleds are very handy. But you got to be careful with that too. So you get a good sled. Oh boy. But anywho, I think we're gonna end it there.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Reggie, for joining me on this awesome
Yep.
adventure. And we'll have you on again soon before we go. And then when we're at camp, we'll film a bunch of stuff there, so we get the full camp experience and hear some stories from the old timers. And I really want to get Norm on film a lot while we're there, because he's got some pretty awesome stories, and he's a lot like my dad. He's my dad's he's my dad's youngest brother and littlest brother, and he's a funny dude. So his sense of humor is great, and he grew up in the same place, so it's cool. Ever since my dad passed, me and Uncle Norm have been really, really close, and we text each other just about every day, and it's important for him and it's important for me. So it's cool. It's really cool to have, and he's always been one of my favorite uncles, and just always a super cool dude. So it'll be cool to have him on film and share, because he's got a lifetime of knowledge too. So he likes hunting whitetails more than he likes muleys, but he's killed a lot of nice muleys too. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna be fun. So,
Well, stuff coming up.
yes, sir. Thank you so much.